Hi everybody and welcome to the webinar, and today we are featuring DNV. So DNV are experts in assurance and risk management, and they're involved in some really fascinating projects and have got lots on offer to you, our STEM students. So let's hear all about who they are and who they are as individuals as well within the business, and meet the panel. So you'll know Steve. Steve's a familiar face on these Gradcracker webinars. So Steve is the talent acquisition partner, the lead talent acquisition partner. So Steve, tell us a bit more about you and your role at DNV.
Yeah, thanks, Carla, and welcome everybody. Yes, my role, as Carla said, I look after talent acquisition. I'm not bothered about the lead bit.
I'm bothered, Steve.
Well, you can be bothered. Effectively, I help our organisation identify and recruit the best talent that we can attract to our organisation, and a big part of that for us is our early in careers recruitment. So looking after graduates, apprentices, interns. But obviously, the other half of my role is very much looking at how we attract some of the world-leading specialists that our business creates and relies upon. So that's my role in a nutshell. Was there a second question you were asking me?
There's always a second question for you, Steve. Right. So tell me more about why early careers then, because I know you've been in the industry forever. We've worked together for 12 years. So tell the audience why early careers is so important to DNV.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we are very much a knowledge-based organisation. So we realise the need to create, not just support a sustainable planet, and we'll come on to that, no doubt, as we go through the call. But the only way we can do that is by creating sustainable talent pipelines as well. So we want to develop people who can help solve some of the world's greatest challenges. And bring those people through. And these people, some of the technologies that we look at, hydrogen, carbon capture, these are relatively new industries for us. You know, the move towards renewables is new as well in relative terms. So from our side, it's really important that we bring through the next generation of talent. Many of these people are far, far more aligned and passionate and curious about some of these challenges than maybe previous generations. So we see it's a massive opportunity for us to attract people in who are really curious and passionate about trying to solve some of those problems.
Yeah, I mean, you've briefly touched it there, Steve, but DNV is a huge company, you know, global, worldwide organisation. But what kind of in a nutshell, what is it that you actually do? So how would you?
I was really hoping you wasn't going to ask me that question. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to answer very, 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 very briefly. Fortunately, I've got colleagues on this call who will talk about their individual teams and departments in a bit more detail. But I guess the part of the business that I'm responsible for is called energy systems. That's an incredibly, and I'll use this term loosely, but an incredibly unsexy title for what we actually do. And it'll mean very, very little to most people listening. But what that really looks at is the full supply chain of energy. So from generation of energy all the way through to the transmission and distribution of energy, and also looking at the assets that facilitate that, from on and offshore wind farms, for instance, you know, looking at solar, looking at, you know, some of our oil and gas pipelines, everything that creates energy and distributes energy and transmits energy is what we're involved in. But it's all about the energy transition. So how we move to a much less carbonised or decarbonised environment, and to make the things that we do safer and more sustainable for the future. We advise clients. We're ultimately a consultancy, very technical in what we do. We have a lot of engineers, analysts, as you'll meet a number of them today. But it's all about helping, you know, organisations and government bodies right across the energy industry produce and transmit and operate their assets in a much safer and more sustainable way.
You did that very well, Steve. I'm very impressed. So thank you very much. We're going to meet everybody else now before we loop back to Steve a little bit later on in the webinar. So let's get to know the grads and degree apprentice you in as well. So Ari, I'm going to start with you. So could you tell the audience about where you went to university and what did you study?
Hi everyone. My name's Ari and I studied engineering design at Bristol University.
Perfect, thank you, Ari. Tonya?
Hello, my name's Tonya. I am a graduate of physics. I did my master's in physics at Newcastle University.
Perfect, thanks Tonya. Louise?
Hi everyone, I'm Louise. I studied mechanical and electrical engineering at Robert Gordon's University.
Lovely, thank you very much, Louise. Jack?
Hi everyone, I'm Jack. I studied chemical engineering at Loughborough University.
Perfect, thank you, Jack. And Ewan, a bit of a tweak on the question for you. So which university are you currently studying at and what degree are you studying as part of your degree apprenticeship?
Hi, I'm Ewan. I'm studying at the University of Wales, Trinity St David, and my degree is Ordnance, Munitions and Explosives.
Oh, that is exciting. Jess's brain's going bing, 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 bing of all the questions that she's going to ask you. And Ewan, how far are you through your degree apprenticeship?
So I'm currently about a year and a half through, and I've got another 3.5 years left.
Fabulous. Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Ewan. So you can see there from right at the beginning of the webinar, we've got a bit of a mixture of disciplines and degrees studied, and obviously a mixture of universities as well. So Steve, am I okay to say that you would accept quite a few different STEM disciplines from the majority of the universities when your opportunities open?
Yes, so the nature of what we look for is all of our individual roles have certain criteria against them, clearly. But there is a wide range across all of these roles that we look for, you know, from some of the very clear engineering disciplines, civils, mechanicals, geotechnicals, structurals, chemical engineering, electrical instrumentation, all the way through to some of the more, I guess, like the maths and science type of, maths and physics type of scientific disciplines. We've got some very analytical, so very much data analysis type ones. We've got some naval architecture ones. Hopefully I haven't missed too many of them out there, but they're very much across the broad range there. So environmental science is becoming very, very useful for us as well. So there's a whole range of different degree disciplines that we look for. And yes, we have offices dotted around the UK, main hubs where we have people, and I know I'm going to miss ones out, so I'll get shot, but main ones tend to be London, Bristol, Loughborough, Manchester, Aberdeen, Edinburgh. And we've also got the Spade Adam site, as we were referred to, up in Cumbria, and we've got a couple of other labs and testing facilities in Bishop Auckland and one in the East Midlands as well in Ambergate. So, but there are other satellite offices that we've got, but they tend to be the main ones where we recruit our early careers talent into.
Perfect, thanks Steve. And sticking with you, I know your opportunities aren't currently open on Gradcracker, but will be opening imminently. So people who are watching, I know we're going to inspire you a little bit later on as part of the webinar, not that Steve hasn't inspired you already. I'm going to get told off for saying that. Can you, follow DNV on Gradcracker to be alerted when they do open their opportunities. So Steve, when will you be opening? This is a recorded webinar, so you need to stick to your word. So when will you be opening and what opportunities will you be opening?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit following on from the last question, really. So we're going to be starting advertising our roles from next week. You'll start seeing roles coming out. The majority of the roles will probably be more in mid-February onwards, over a couple of month period. So we don't release all of our roles at the same time. For various different reasons. We like to make sure our process is a bit more efficient and effective. I think we'll probably come on to talking about our overall recruitment process later, but we like to keep our roles open for a relatively short period of time. So you guys who apply to us aren't left sitting for months on end wondering what's happening. So we like to get people through our process a little bit quicker. So we will have a whole range of graduate opportunities across the various STEM disciplines that we've talked about. We will also have a number of both summer and year-long placement opportunities as well. And also probably more aligned to the areas of the business that Tonya and Ewan will talk about, more around maybe some of the more degree apprentice roles as well, specifically in that part of our business, where we feel it really suits some of the things that we're doing a little bit more than other parts of our business. So there'll be a whole range of those roles that we'll be looking to advertise. The other couple of things that might become apparent as we talk through this call is that we try to tailor the types of roles to you. You know, we don't try to have a one-size-fits-all approach. We're evolving what we are doing here and how we're approaching this. But we've got opportunities if you want to come on board and join us on a rotational program. That works really well for us because we like people who can understand the broader organisation that we're part of. So you get a chance during your first couple of years with us to go and spend time in 2 or 3 different departments and get a feel for what they do and whether or not it's what you want to do as well. Likewise, we also have people who join us and they already know what they're passionate about. They already know what they really want to do. And that works really well for us equally. So we like those people who will join us and develop more that immediate depth of knowledge and get stuck into something from day one, rather than over the first couple of years they move into different areas and then make a decision where they want to be. So we've got those different views. Yes, Connor.
So just on that similar thread, Steve, if a student wants to apply to more than one opportunity, can they? Because I'm just a bit, so they can.
Absolutely, Our roles are very much individual. You don't just apply to a program; you apply to a specific role because all of our criteria is slightly different for individual roles. It makes sense that people who have a real desire and a real affinity towards more analytical work will suit certain parts of our organisation or specific roles a little bit more than if you're somebody that likes to be a bit more practical. You know, so there's different natural behaviours that our assessment or recruitment process assesses. And we think that's really important to help you be aligned to the opportunities that most suit what it is that you're looking for, both from a behavioural point of view, but also from a motivational point of view as well. Because going back to my earlier point, Carla, I think what stands candidates out for us is their curiosity and their passion for what they're coming in to do. And that curiosity, I think, is linked to both that passion for wanting to be able to solve problems, but also that curiosity around knowing, I guess, how we find the solutions to some of those problems as well. So it's that problem solving skills, analytical skills, those curiosity traits, I think, that fit nicely there. But I think the passion linked to curiosity as well is really important.
Oh, I think that's a hint and a tip if I did hear one. Cool. Thank you very much, Steve. So we're going to leave it for now for you. Steve will be back in about half an hour or so. We're going to discuss recruitment process, hints and tips and everything else. But now we're going to loop everybody else back in and just get the top facts about DNV before I hand over to Jessica. So Ari, I'm going to come to you with your top facts, please.
Thank you, Carla. My top fact is that our boss in Energy Systems UK just got interviewed on Sky, a one-to-one interview a few months ago, talking about DNV's view on climate change and how the energy transition that we're going through is progressing, and sort of sharing our findings with the whole of the UK.
Perfect. Are you involved in that project, Ari, or is it?
Tangentially, they kind of it's quite a sort of DNV-wide effort, the Energy Transition Outlook, which I would encourage anyone who's interested to go Google. It's a really interesting document.
Perfect. Lovely. Thank you very much, Ari. Tonya, your top fact.
Hello. So I'm based on the Spade Adams site that Steve talked a bit about earlier. My top fact is that the Spade Adams site does a lot of research with both energy, oil and gas, and a lot of testing with like explosives. And Spade Adam as a site has been doing blast testing for over 40 years.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tonya. Louise?
My fun fact is just the fact that DNV is such an industry-wide company with so many different roles and opportunities, and it prides itself on progressing with the future more than its competitors.
Yeah, I love that, because obviously the graduates are going to be involved in the future at DNV. Similar thread, Jack, for your fact?
Yeah, it's kind of building on. And so we have offices in over 100 countries all around the world. So you might find yourself working with people from pretty much every walk of life all over the world, pretty often.
Is that what happens to you, Jack? Do you get to liaise with people all over the world?
Yeah. I've worked with people in the Rio office, in Brazil, the Paris office, Houston, and a couple of others, but I can't remember them.
Wow, that'll do my geography.
With that, then, would there be a chance to travel as a graduate, or maybe once they finish the program to travel, to these different offices across the world?
I think there's definitely opportunity to travel within the UK in the offices, but I also know of two people that when I was on my placement with DNV, they're currently relocating. One's going to, I think, Madrid, and the other one's going to Australia.
Oh, amazing.
Wow. Perfect. Thank you very much, Jack. And Ewan, last but not least, what's your top fact?
My top fact, so I'm also based at Spade Adam, and the Spade Adam site was originally opened to develop missiles for the Cold War.
Yeah, perfect. I'm excited, Jess. I'm going to hand over to you to talk. Let's talk about journeys. Let's talk about projects. Over to you.
Brilliant, thank you. So, Ari, I'll come to you. Sorry, Ari, I will come to you. We started, didn't we? Ari.
That's okay.
We said this at the beginning.
I know, I said it straight off. If we could just talk a bit more about your role, what life is like for you, and a bit about kind of the environment that you're working in, so teams and things like that.
Sure. So I work in the offshore wind team here in the London office. As has been alluded to, there's lots of offices around the country. So I'm working with people in Bristol, up in Aberdeen, and then more globally for these international projects that we work on. Within the offshore wind team, I guess it's quite hard to generalize, so I just picked out a few things. I suppose in a nutshell, we're independent engineers. So to sort of split that up, we're engineers, we're a knowledge-based industry, we're providing technical expertise to our customers who want to better understand what's going on in the industry or an individual project. And then the independent side of things is obviously very important to DNV, and is very valued by our customers, in that we build trust between parties that maybe, there may be lots of money on the line, and they may be discussing terms for contracts. So being able to have a impartial view from experts is really valued. So to wrap up, I just thought I'd have a few bullet points on some of the stuff we've been working. So maybe helping banks understand the risks of a project before giving a loan, helping developers understand how feasible their offshore wind project might be, helping site owners better optimize how they're running and maintaining their wind farms, and helping government institutions around the world understand how the offshore wind industry is changing and how they can respond to that.
So that was actually going to be one of my questions for you then. So in terms of from start to finish of a project, you seems as though you're involved in the whole process, if needed.
Yeah, if needed. We are, or at least historically have been, probably still are, I haven't checked the numbers, the largest renewables consultancy in the world. Yep. So in technical consultancy, so we have a huge number of experts who can deal with the whole life cycle of a process. I suppose, given the nature of the work, we tend to be involved in certain stages for different projects. It tends to not be from start to finish. We're constantly involved in the same project, because that can be sort of 5-10 years sometimes, from the start of planning to having it be in the sea. So yeah.
And what's your team like? So yes, you're based in the London office, but what is life like for you, kind of on a daily basis? Are you in a small team, but working internationally, nationally, or how does it look for you?
So the offshore wind team, or the offshore wind team that I'm in, is 8 engineers spread across the UK. Sitting sort of more broadly within the renewables projects team is 30, and then I suppose the whole renewable section in the UK is probably double that. We work quite intensely as a team, just the 7 of us, but because of our expertise within the team, we're working lots with our international projects, so Japan, Korea, lots of stuff in the North Sea and in the Baltics, so liaising with Scandinavian customers and the DNV offices there.
Yeah, amazing, good stuff. Well, thanks, Ari. I'll come to you next, Tonya, if that's okay, and if you could tell us a bit about, again, what your role is like at the moment and what life is like for you at DNV. Oh, light's gone out.
I work in the team at Spade Adam in the scientist team. So we're kind of split into different sections on site. We have like project managers, engineers and scientists, and we kind of work as a unit on different projects to kind of get things done. As a scientist, my role is more focused on understanding the instrumentation that goes into like blast testing mainly. Okay. And things that you'd expect. I use my degree a lot, how to make the data that you're collecting better quality, and then like kind of how to physically put out the instruments, collecting the data, process it all, and like kind of put it in reports and stuff for our clients.
Amazing. So in terms of blast testing, do you do that sometimes on scale, or do you do it, kind of in a mini kind of lab and then see what happens? How does it work? Because I can't imagine, blowing up a wind farm, for example, can be that safe.
Yeah, so it's kind of a unique place. It's more like, it's very similar to working on a construction site. Okay. It's probably it's like a kilometre long. So even though I say that I'm a scientist, we don't wear like white lab coats, like I think some people might expect from that title.
We've got
it's more high vis and hard hats.
Okay.
Yeah, so we work out on site. All of our blast testing is like large scale, and sometimes we do small scale, but still all outside. And yeah, depending on what the need is from the client, they bring a problem to us, and then we kind of put together how we're going to solve it, whether they want to see if something will pass or fail a blast test. We go from the very beginning, cost through the job, write all the test procedures, how we're going to do it, write the risk assessments, and then kind of manage the team out on site and conduct the tests. So,
question there, Tonya. So are you kind of, when you do a blast test, and surely you have mentioned, say, wind farms, but you could be testing a blast in any kind of situation. Is that right? Or is it you kind of do the same test over and over, or could be anything?
Could be anything. It's the variation is like immense. Mm-hmm. Clients can bring stuff to us that they want tested for, like, let's say, for example, your wind farm. If somebody wanted to test a wind turbine, they would bring it to site, probably in pieces, assemble it up. We would like decide how we're going to do it, what the best way would be, what instrumentation they might need, so like cameras, pressure gauges, and kind of how design where they're going to go and how that all works. And take it through from start to finish to kind of get the results that they're after.
And typically then, how long would it take to build that, put the kind of equipment and everything together to blast it to then getting results? Typically, how long does all that take?
It totally depends on the trial. So we've got some projects that are long term, like spanning multiple years in the future, are going to go on for a long, long time. And then all the way to the other extreme, clients come to our site. We might spend a month, say, planning how we're going to do it, writing the risk assessments for that. And then we'll spend a week outside physically doing all of the blast tests.
So then I'm thinking about so in an environment, then how do you make the environment that the thing you're gonna blow up essentially a similar environment? Say if you're up in the North Sea, how can you make that a similar environment to where you're going to be, and how you're going to make it a fair test, I guess?
A lot of imagination. That's probably so obviously if we're doing blast testing in the North for the North Sea, we couldn't like transport the sea to site, but we would just like kind of blast test the components. On our site, we've got a lot of test areas, which are basically big concrete pads that we kind of set things up on. But yeah, we do try and make it as realistic as possible. And that's one of the nice things about our job, is that kind of the sky's the limit, in terms of like imagination of how we're going to kind of solve the problems that clients are bringing to us.
Amazing. So interested. Tonya, we're going to come back to you a bit more later on to talk about, maybe more of a project and how that went. But yeah, so interesting. So thank you so much for that. Louise, I'm going to come to you next, if that's okay. Same kind of question. If you could just tell us a bit more about your current role and life like at DNV.
No problem. So my current role is within offshore infrastructure, which is under Energy Systems UK. I'm an engineer based in the Aberdeen office. So my job basically involves verification of ongoing reviews and applications that are in accordance with various verification schemes for many North Sea assets. Okay. So this kind of includes reviewing and auditing operators, the way they manage the asset, their maintenance strategies, and any management systems. Also including the inspection and testing of offshore plants, equipment, systems, and we report on their compliance with their own verification scheme and the government legislation.
Wow. Okay. So, so tell us a bit about, again, a bit about the team and what a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah. So I'm in a team of around 10 people, all various jobs. I'm within the OPEX section, which is operations, within offshore infrastructure. So we're like a team inside of a team inside of a team. Okay. Yeah, on day to day, there's lots to be done. Sometimes I also float to the VMC department, which is more of verification and certification types of like modules and other components. So these will be new designs rather than current designs.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And so what does VMC stand for?
Oh, now you've put me on the spot.
Oh, no, don't worry. Don't worry, that's fine. And have you ever, Louise, actually gone offshore?
Yes, I have.
Have you? What was it like?
So I've been offshore 3 times in the year and a half I've been with DNV, and I'm away in 2 weeks actually. Yeah. So it is it's something else, I would say. Yeah, it's I really enjoy it. The waking up early is a bit painful and the 12-hour shifts are a bit rough, but compared to the office work, I would say it's such an eye-opener for what actually happens offshore and how important DNV is to the industry. You see that a lot out there.
Yeah, and it must be nice when you have had that experience, when you're back at your desk, you think, and it resonates more, I can imagine as well, that passion. Have you always had a passion to go into this industry? Is this something that you've always fancied doing?
Yes, so I grew up with a father as an engineer. So I knew all about the industry, and when I was at school, I was quite fortunate that a lot of companies came out and spoke to us. So yeah, it was always something that I wanted to do, but DNV has very much helped, shape my career in a way.
And getting the experience so far, is there do you feel like you're on the right path, or are you seeing interest in other areas, being exposed to different things? Or do you think, actually, no, this is it, I want to carry on doing this for as long as I can?
Every time I think that, this is what I want to do, something new comes along and I'm like, that's quite interesting. Yeah. Because it changes all the time.
That's the thing, it's ever changing, which is so exciting. So thank you so much, Louise. So Jack, you're next on my list, so I'll come to you next if that's okay. Again, same question, just tell us a bit about you and your current role.
Yeah, okay. I'm a CFD engineer, which is a computational fluid dynamics consultant. So pretty much what that involves is simulating stuff like gas releases, fires and explosions on a lot of oil and gas, but now more and more frequently renewables, sort of like battery storage in warehouse and stuff. So essentially customers come to us, they're about to build or fully built sometimes, full installations, and they want to know essentially is the risks to workers, the structures on the environment as low as reasonably practical. So we essentially simulate them using software, and we tell them very detailed information about sort of like blast loads on different areas or heat loads if there's a fire, that sort of thing.
So, Jack, again, kind of picking up from Louise's last comment on ever changing, the whole world of, battery use and everything else, the whole life cycle of a battery is kind of, we know about it, but it's kind of new as well in terms of doing it on a huge industrial scale. So in terms of your work, I always use the word forefront of technology in these webinars because you literally are. Where do you kind of see the kind of battery electrical world kind of ending up? And you must literally be finding out new stuff all the time. It must be so interesting for you.
Yeah, well, the thing is, with the transition to net zero, we're definitely going to need more battery storage. But the thing is, batteries are inherently dangerous, a lot of them, with lithium ions, because they're so flammable when they do go up. So there's definitely going to be more work for us when there's more and more of these battery storage warehouses being put up, sort of thing. So and we're also starting to do work with carbon capture storage, so sort of CO2 pipelines, to see the consequences if one of those was to leak, because there's not been that much sort of modeling of CO2. So we're sort of trying our best using data from the Spade Adam test site to work out if we can properly model this and see if we can accurately say what the consequences would be of a large-scale pipeline fracture.
Wow, oh my goodness. So in terms of, your typical day then, Jack, I imagine, are you in a lab coat? Are you, testing out this kind of stuff?
Definitely not.
Or is it just kind of day
I'm in the London office mainly, but I am working from home due to hybrid working scheme. But no, I'm never wearing a lab coat. This is all done on computers. We software that we have that we use from outside companies and some that are developed internally. Which is a lot of it is validated on test data, which comes again from the Spade Adam site. I'm not doing the testing.
Do you ever feed projects back to the Spade Adam site to say, look, we've got this data, but we want to actually test this just in case? So do you ever create projects internally, or is it only ever what's coming?
I think a lot of it comes from when customers have their needs, and then if we are able to use that data to then develop our own models and things like that. The thing is, with Spade Adam, it's quite expensive to do that, so we definitely can't afford it.
No, I get that. I totally get that. But how interesting. So in terms of, you mentioned about a hybrid approach, Jack, to your kind of working life. So how does that work? And, can you go in the office as much as you want, to as little as you want? How's that working for you?
So we're currently on a 3 in, 2 out, no set days. So a lot of the time I've been going in the office more and more because I've found it more enjoyable. But originally, I was working from home 2 or 3 times a week. Then it's simply a case of just sort of let them know when you're coming in, and it's fine. We, as a team, about 14 of us, we have sort of days that we've not really agreed on, but we just do anyway. So we usually come in on Tuesday, Wednesdays and Fridays are our main days.
That's good. Yeah. It's good to have that kind of team kind of bonding time as well, isn't it? So you can shout those questions at one another, and even just go for a coffee together, which is good. Something which, again, when I'm speaking to students, to really embrace that, because it's hugely beneficial, isn't it? To get that skill of working together. So great stuff, Jack. So thanks for that. And then last but not least, Ewan, I'm going to come to you. Tell us everything on what is life like as a degree apprentice at DNV.
So I'm doing an explosive technician apprenticeship. So I'm involved in building explosive charges, setting up trials, and then detonating them. Working with the scientists like Tonya and the engineers in the trials, testing products, whatever the customer needs. So the engineers and scientists will set up the trials, and I'll be involved in building the explosives for it and setting it all up and blowing it up.
I just love it. So in terms of go right back, okay, so if you don't mind me asking, quite early on in your career, what made you think you wanted to do a degree apprenticeship? Because they're quite new in terms of the opportunities that are out there. So what made you want to do this, and you keep using the word explosive and blowing things up. So obviously that was a bit of an attraction originally. So tell us about that, and what really kind of interested you to apply to DNV.
So I didn't really fancy going to uni full time because I didn't want to move away. So a degree apprenticeship was quite good because it meant I could continue learning, but also working and earning a wage. And DNV Spade Adam. I live quite local, so I hear a lot of the testing. So I kind of knew about it. So when I was leaving school, I seen the job, and I thought it'd be quite interesting, so I applied. It suited me quite well, like I say, doing a degree apprenticeship. So yeah.
And then tell us a bit now what life is like for you then. So again, what's the team like you're working? I'm guessing you're still quite local in terms of where your office is based and things. You don't have to travel too far.
No, it's about a 20-minute drive from my house, so it's nice and local for me. And I work mainly with one other person on a day-to-day, but then there's big trials where I get to work with the engineers and scientists, and it's quite a big site, so I work with lots of different people, which is good. But yeah, mainly in the explosive team, there's about 5 of us, I think. Okay. But like I say, with working with engineers and other people in different areas a lot. So.
And if you were going to give the advice to anyone else to do a degree apprenticeship, what advice would that be?
Do it. It was like I say, it suited me perfectly because it meant I could continue learning while working and earning a bit of money and staying at home, which is what I wanted to do. But then also getting to go away to university now and then and getting a bit of time away. And like I say, I love it. Like I wouldn't want to have gone to university full time, but part time's quite nice because I get that experience.
Brilliant. And we're going to come back to you in more detail about your kind of favourite project, but just before we do, what's the most exciting thing you've ever blown up?
The vehicle trials of blown up cars is pretty exciting.
Right.
That never gets old, but there's lots of interesting things.
So is that a normal car, or is it like a hybrid car, an electric car? What are you blowing it up for? Just to see?
So various really, just blowing it up, seeing how it seeing what happens up. Really. Yeah, whether things sets on fire or just kind of the damage and what would happen if it was to happen on the outside world.
Absolutely.
Interesting. You and I are going to start their own chat show. So that to be confirmed.
So talking a bit more about projects, Ari, I'm going to come back to you if that's okay. And if you could just tell us in a bit more detail about some of the projects that you've been working on.
Sure thing. So I selected one that I was doing towards the end of last year. So obviously all of our work is slightly confidential, so I can't sort of name names, but I can talk about it in sort of high level terms. So it was a offshore wind project off the south coast of Ireland, where they were looking to build an offshore wind farm and then take all that energy and then send it to shore to split water into hydrogen. There's lots of stuff going on. Investigating green hydrogen at the moment as a potential way of decarbonising other industries. So it's a very hot topic. And I picked this project to talk about just because I thought it might be interesting to those watching, because it was essentially a sort of blank canvas. We got a section of the Celtic Sea and got told, design a wind farm, design an electrolysis station facility for making hydrogen, and tell us how good it's going to be. How good can you make it, so that they can then benchmark what they're planning on doing against competitors and decide whether to go forward. So we took all that data, we decided, we ran sort of lots of complex wake models to understand how the wind resource was working, how big the turbines needs to be, where they need to go, scoping out everything that you can imagine really, and then sort of summarizing that in a report, giving a presentation to our customers, and then sort of wrapping it up a couple months later with smiles all round. So
brilliant. And am I allowed to ask, is it going to go ahead?
Well, there's a lot more important people than me that need to decide that. But yeah, we found some really interesting findings towards how designs need to be implemented, how the sort of interactions between hydrogen production and offshore wind generation interact with each other, and how that influences the design of the overall system. But so yeah, we provide a lot of value to our customers. Whether it's going to go ahead is to be decided. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Personally though, Ari, that must be a huge thing to be involved in. You know, again, it's that idea of coming up with something which is absolutely brand new, maybe has never been done before in that particular area. It must be so exciting to be handed a project like that.
Yeah, it's really thrilling. I think particularly renewables and offshore wind, I suppose in particular, is such a fast changing industry that, you know, currently there are 5 offshore wind turbines, I think, in the whole of Ireland, and we're talking about putting hundreds in the sea, talking about sites that are bigger than any that exist now, and trying to grapple with the implications of that is really, really interesting.
Another question, again, it's more of a personal one, I hope you don't mind me asking, is, you know, that passion, you know, it's something that Steve, again, must have mentioned numerous times in his introduction, and I've even wrote down the word curiosity and passion. You know, you could really kind of head up this webinar after, and that'd be the title of it. And do you feel like personally, to do well in these projects, you know, when you get handed something on this kind of scale, you must have that personal interest and that personal passion and motivation to, you know, come up with these ideas, you know, to be thinking about it all the time, and then to kind of go through the lifespan of the project to then hand it over at the end. It must be, you know, again, really inspiring to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think passion definitely goes a long way, particularly when it's a difficult project, or deadlines are quite tight and you've got to sort of sort things out quite quickly, or sort of find innovative solutions for things. I'd say that's one of the great strengths of the team I'm in, is that everyone's really passionate about renewable energy and making a difference for the planet. And yeah, it's very indicative that whenever we're on lunch breaks or maybe down the pub after work, it's the first thing we start talking about, which I think tells you quite a lot.
It's genuine passion then. Would you say when you were at university, was that something that, again, you really did interest you then? Or
it was something I moved to
in the background?
Yeah, it was. I guess I was always aware of it. But it was something I moved towards over the course of my degree with the units. I was able to pick, and were fortunate enough to be on offer. And at the University of Bristol, I'm not sure if anyone here is watching is from the University of Bristol. There are renewables modules that are actually taught by DNV employees. So I was aware of DNV maybe in a way that's probably not as common, but it's something that I think it just grows over time as you get an appreciation for both the need of it, and that from a technical perspective, it's just a really, really interesting technology that's changing very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and Steve, kind of come back to you for a second. In terms of students applying, students thinking about doing stuff like this, if they mention it now, you know, maybe doing those particular modules or doing something kind of extracurricular activities, that's the kind of stuff that you want to hear now when a student is applying, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but we just contradicting slightly what you've just said there, Jess, because I don't disagree, but I think the other side of it is absolutely about our organisation being able to really inspire and adapt people who, a bit like Ari just mentioned there, that he wants to get into this. This is something that he, you know, deliberately studied and wants to put to good use. We do have other individuals who come into our organisation who know they want to do something, whether it's in our industry overall, or whether it is, I'm an incredibly analytical person. I love playing with data, but I don't know what I can do with that. So from our point of view, we try to capture people who, have got those different approaches. Likewise, as Ewan very eloquently pointed out, you know, we also want to be able to appeal to people who don't want to go and have studied at university. Maybe you're coming straight out of some A-levels or even GCSEs and want to come down the apprenticeship route. we think that's just as valuable for us to build our future pipeline of talent and knowledge in our organisation. So I agree with you. We want people who love doing and know what they're good at, know why they're interested in us, know why we can help develop their careers.
Yeah.
But we're also not naive to the fact that some people aren't clear in their own head yet. And even if they could spend a year in our organisation and sit in 5 different teams, they might still be none the wiser in terms of what they want to do. But it might just identify, well, I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could put my skills to use in that. And our industry is evolving as well. So where we need people will change. So having people who have got that flexibility and openness, but it's whether you're passionate about renewables or passionate about people's safety, it doesn't really matter. Our overall purpose is around safeguarding, people, property, and the environment. It's kind of our strap line that you see on all of our websites. No one goes down, I don't think, a pub as Ari mentioned, after work and comes out with that strap line, but it's just kind of, ingrained into everything that we do and everything our people do as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and thank you for making that, more clear, because I think that's the thing. It's okay not to know as well, isn't it? It's okay to say, I'm good at this, I like this, but I don't know where it can take me, but I want to apply it to this. So that's a really good point. So I'm going to go next to Tonya, back to Tonya, if that's okay. Favourite project that you've worked on so far? Favourite thing you've blown up, Tonya? Tell us.
It's hard to pick one. I'd like you and said before, like the cars and vans are usually pretty good because the amount of mess that they generate, you wouldn't believe. We do a lot of blast testing of like windows, doors and walls as well. Like what Steve was saying, like totally focusing from like the safety aspect of things. People need to know if these things can withstand blast testing for whatever reason. And we kind of do a lot of testing with that. Also on site, we do a lot of testing looking at the energy transition that Ari mentioned earlier, how we're going to take kind of the UK to net zero, but also how we're going to do that safely. So we do a lot of testing relating to kind of looking into the risks of, okay, we want to introduce hydrogen into our distribution network, but is there any kind of hurdles that we need to overcome with that? What are the risks associated with that? We're doing a lot of testing with that at the moment with our kind of future grid project. So
in terms of then kind of these projects that you are given, Tonya, in terms of it seems as though, and I suppose when I first started speaking to you, I was thinking more the original source of where energy could come from, but I suppose, do you cover all the way right through to kind of domestic energy sources? And that's something which I suppose I wasn't thinking about straight away, but you cover everything really, don't you?
Yeah, we started off as a site kind of looking at oil and gas mainly stuff, and over the years we're getting more and more inquiries into hydrogen and working with hydrogen in many different forms. In the past we've done tests on even things like hydrogen boilers and investigating the different components inside. Are they kind of a risk to make it, like the components will they make the boiler explode kind of thing? So yeah, we do a very, very wide range of testing from oil and gas all the way to like hydrogen, and then kind of our blast testing as well. So
yeah, it's a good point that you've made. Yeah, because I think originally I was just thinking at the kind of the original source. So in terms of again a bit more maybe about a kind of particular project, then again, do you work from start to finish on projects? So you mentioned a bit about it could take numerous years to put a project together. What does that typically look like?
For the longer term projects, it's usually because they're significantly more complicated and there's just a lot more goes into it. So projects like that may span many years, you might not see the start of. But what's also quite nice is joining as a graduate when we have smaller inquiries coming in, smaller projects. They're more than happy to kind of give you the reins, and obviously with a lot of support. But yeah, you get to see it from the beginning, how to price it, going through developing your own relationships with the clients as well, which is really important, all the way through to eventually testing and delivering the report. And then, if the client may want to come back and do some more testing or again in the future. So yeah, you have a bit of total mix of both things. And I think that's quite nice that you have the opportunity to work as part of a bigger team and bigger projects. And then also you get opportunities where you've got your own responsibilities to look after as well.
That's a really interesting point as well, when you say about costing of projects like this. Where do you even start to think about, costing, blowing something up, and the effects and everything else? And did you ever find it when, and I'm sure you won't now because you're obviously well trained, but there's obviously always going to be an element of surprise in the stuff that you do as well, isn't there? Something might happen that you might not have considered. Yeah,
definitely. If you're pricing the project well, you build in some contingency for things like that, because you're totally right. We've had tests in the past, where some of our instrumentation might have been hit by a fragment, for example, and we've had to replace it last minute. But it's just making sure that you kind of are flexible enough to be able to work around any problems when they arise. And then also, if you've priced the job as well, like having some spare money is also good.
I can imagine. So yeah, being able to adapt, in certain situations, I can imagine that's really key for you personally as part of the team, which is really interesting. So thanks for that, Tonya. Next, Louise, I'm going to come back to you. Favorite project that you have worked on so far?
So it's currently one that I'm working on just now, that we've just completed today. So we're currently doing next generation verification, which is basically streamlining the verification process and our review services that we're providing to, some of the biggest oil and gas companies. So this will be how we review the modification processes, how we go offshore, what the reporting will look like, basically making it more cost efficient and in a way simpler and safer at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's something, again, it's that word that's been used a lot, isn't it? Safety, again, is key all the time, and especially in your role. So in terms of, I'm going to ask you another question because I'm conscious of time as well. In terms of your future, and, we've kind of touched a bit about that when we last spoke, but, what do you feel like the future for DNV, for you at DNV is looking like? And tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so with the endless amount of opportunities, I could find myself changing department. Pretty much depends on if I like whatever job comes to me. Every now and then I get the opportunity to kind of taste the other bit of work and see that. So I definitely see a future even within my own department or another, but definitely I would say at DNV. Currently with my team lead, we're making small plans for the next year on how I can improve within my role, which will lead to bigger plans in the future. So,
and do you feel as though you've got a lot of support in terms of training, being able to move and things like that, Louise? You get that, that kind of support all the time?
Yes, definitely. I think the structure that DNV provide for support is really good. I've got, because I'm both mechanical and electrical disciplined, I have 2 points of contact for one of each, so I can speak to someone if I'm unsure about anything. Within the jobs I do, there's always 1 or 2 points of contact that I could go to, so I have so much support that I never feel like I'm struggling or alone, even if the work's tougher than I anticipated.
That's really good. Thanks, Louise. Jack, I'm going to come to you next, but with a slightly different question. So kind of moving away from your day job at DNV, what else is on offer in terms of other activities that you can get involved in, such as, like working groups, sport groups, or anything else? Is there anything else that you're involved in that front?
I can't speak for other offices specifically, but I know for the London office, we have a sports and social committee who's organised things like trips to the theatre. We did a cooking class the other month. We made was it bao bombs and stuff like that. Very nice. Nice. We have a football group that play every Wednesday, and actually just recently we were about to have a inter-office football tournament in Amsterdam in a couple of months.
Oh wow!
So that'll be offices from all around. I'm not sure if it's around the world, but definitely Europe will be meeting to essentially decide for once and for all who's the best staff for football. And within like our team, we go out to the pub like most Fridays, pretty much. We have people who don't drink, so everyone is welcome. And we often have like grad meetups, like me and Ari meet up with a couple of the other grads in our cohort just to see each other, because me and Ari don't work together, but we do work in the same office, sort of thing. So there's definitely plenty to get on with.
Which is nice, because again, you work in your team, but it's nice to meet other people from other teams and have that time to network, which is great. So Ewan, I'm going to come back to you, if it's okay. If you could just tell us a bit about maybe your future and what's that looking like for you at DNV, but also maybe any additional things that you've been involved in.
So once I've finished my degree, I'll progress to be an engineer or a scientist, and then I have the option to kind of keep going, do my my master's and even a PhD. There's an engineer who's just completed a PhD with DNV, so just probably go as far as I can.
Amazing. And isn't that exciting to know now at this still early stage that you've got all that to come? So, and I wonder where you're going to end up. So it'd be great to stay in contact with you and really to understand, where your career is going and where all the, kind of turns it's going to take, because I can imagine what you'll be working on now, when you're doing your PhD will probably be completely different, because again, that's how the industry is going. So very exciting. So Carla, I'll hand back to you so we can finish off with Steve and how we can go about applying.
Thank you very much, love. Steve, okay, so obviously it's application stage now, so tell all the students who are watching how they can apply to your opportunities when they do open.
Yeah, before I do that, because I know you're going to shout at me if I take too long, but before doing that, what I just wanted to say, just building on from everything that my colleagues have talked about, is one thing I'm always absolutely shocked about is just how matter-of-fact they are about some of the incredible and amazing stuff they're involved in. It just humbles me, because I'm not a technical person, and I see the things that they do across all of these different departments, and it isn't the what they are doing, it's what the impact of what they are doing has. Some of the things may on the surface feel, I'm looking at a report, I'm doing some modelling, but that modelling will save people's lives.
Yeah.
It will change the sustainability of our planet. That is the impact of what our people do day in, day out. Every one of our projects links to that in some way. And I think we're just too humble at times about saying it, whereas I'm not, me, Carla. So I can say it, but I think our people, because we've got some of the greatest world-leading experts in their chosen disciplines across the planet, but also specifically in the UK, it's no better breeding ground to actually learn from. And that's why I think Jack, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you talked a little bit about wanting to be in the office a little bit more. Yeah. We really encourage that. We don't force it, but we encourage it, because there's no better way than to actually sit alongside some of these people who lead the industry with their knowledge and know-how. So I just felt that's really important to say. Because the stuff we do, other companies don't get chance to get involved in. The stuff that's been talked about at our Spade Adams site, it's all to do with industry leading, thought leadership around the hydrogen. We're building rows of houses up there. And then, to actually build hydrogen grids and so forth. It's unbelievable, some of the projects that we get involved in. And I think our colleagues, because they're doing it day in, day out, I think they lose sight of just what a difference they're making to the planet and making to people's safety on a day-to-day basis. So that was that. In terms of applying, Carla,
well said, Steve, though, well said.
But no, thank you guys, and thank you for doing it on a day-to-day basis, because you're the people that's actually making the world going to be a better place and a safer place to be, so thank you, because don't take it for granted, because it's amazing stuff that you're doing. So
And it is that common purpose that our people have got, so it's almost second nature to them, you know. Whereas, so in terms of our application process, we're revamping it at the moment, Jess. So we're trying to make it a little bit simpler, a little bit more straightforward, and a little bit faster. So a couple of quick things. When people apply, they'll be asked a very small number of questions, literally, which are aligned to the job advert. Some of that is because some people may have misinterpreted the advert or not really sure what we really need for a particular role. And ultimately, our entire process is around aligning what the candidate is looking for. So it's trying to make sure that we don't put candidates into roles that they're not ultimately suited to. We know what makes people successful in the roles and what sets people up to succeed from a behavioural point of view, from an attribute point of view, and from an interest point of view. So our process is all about assessing that, but assessing it objectively, not making gut decisions based on, well, somebody likes snorkeling or scuba diving, so they must be very outgoing and therefore they will be better in that team. It's about making some scientific and objective assessments. So you answer a few questions when you apply. Once you've applied, we put you through some very engaging, fun-based assessments. I know people hate being assessed. I'm sorry if you do, but we want to do it objectively and scientifically rather than using gut feel from what uni did you go to, etc., etc. We think that's a much fairer way that we can treat people more consistently and more inclusively. So we put people through some what we think are really fun, engaging activities. Then the most important thing for us is we make sure that you understand what the roles are, because, you know, as we've talked about today, it's quite hard to explain what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's quite technical. It's new. You know, it's a lot of what we do. No one's done before. So why would anybody really understand that who's coming from outside? So we then do some online briefings, which will help explain the roles in a bit more detail. So some of the people on this call may be involved in that. Other people who are doing these day-to-day activities will be involved in that. And it just helps us explain to applicants, what is it this role does? And is it what you thought it was and what you want to do? Because whilst we might feel you're suited to it, it doesn't mean that's actually what you want to do. And then the final stage of our process depends on whether you're coming in as a graduate, or if we're doing interns or apprentices, we may do things slightly different. But for our graduates, we do run assessment centres. We'll probably run a mixture of virtual and in person to just make it as inclusive as possible and as easy to join as possible. But in those, we really look at a range of different ways of evaluating people and also giving people more information about what we do. So we do group exercises. They're not technical. They're all about how you engage, collaborate, problem solve together, because at the heart of it, that's what we do day in, day out. Yeah. But we also like to spend some one-to-one time with you, understanding what your real motivations are, how you approach different things, and also give you some examples of types of work we might do and see what you think about those. So it gives you hopefully a really good feel for what life would be like if you joined us here at DNV. And we'll also provide you with a bit of a Q&A session, so you get a chance to spend some time in a very unassessed way, very similar to this sort of discussion, but just, you know, give people an opportunity to raise the questions, their reservations or concerns, or maybe their lack of understanding of something which they wouldn't particularly have wanted to raise maybe at an interview. So we try to make our process as two-way and as engaging as possible, very aware that for many people going through these processes, it could be their first time. So hence why we want to make them as informal and as engaging. We're a really friendly bunch. Hopefully that's come across today. But we haven't got those airs and graces about us. You know, we're not this big corporate machine. You know, we're a really friendly organisation. You know, so it's all about bringing the right people in who've got that curiosity and passion that we spoke about.
Yeah. Perfect.
And Steve, I know you mentioned about at the beginning, so one last question. So I mentioned at the beginning about, you know, show your curiosity, show your passion. Is there anything else, you know, like your top hint and tip that you would give a student going through that whole process? What would it be?
Honesty, I think.
Like it.
We want to align you to what you are passionate and curious about. And there are lots of different roles across our organisation that will suit different people. So I think that, you know, we're trying to be as transparent and honest in our process about what we think makes people most successful, and what helps people feel that motivation and that passion and interest in particular roles. We want that as well from our applicants as well, because, you know, there will be opportunities for all, you know, whether it's, you know, I want to come in and I want to rotate. I don't want to rotate. I'm interested in this. I don't know what I'm really interested in yet. All of those things, the more honest you are with us, the easier it is to be able to ensure that the opportunity that you ultimately move forward with is going to be more suited to you. So I think from my side, it is honesty with yourself, you know, to you know, what is it that I want? Why? Being able to articulate that. Because if you sit in front of some of our interviewers who are absolutely live and breathe this on a day-to-day basis, and you can't convince them that you are interested in it, somebody else will, in short. And so I think it is knowing what is it that I'm really interested in, because then you'll be more aligned to the roles you're applying to. But yeah, be honest, ask questions. If you're not sure, if you need support, I think is a really important thing with our process as well. Carla, sorry, I know we're overrunning a little, and I know you're giving me daggers, but what I would definitely say is we want our process to be as inclusive as possible. So if anybody at any stage of our process needs extra support, wants to discuss stuff, reach out. We're here to help people through the process, not to trip them up through the process. So if they need extra things for whatever reasons, we're here to help. So
yeah. Steve, you've started it beautifully and ended it beautifully as well. So thank you very much. And thanks.
Can I just ask my colleagues to just record that little statement? Because you've given me hell today, Carla. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted that you even put a compliment in there.
I'm a little bit upset at Steve. I'd like to think that I've given you hell for the last 12 years. But anyway, I need to try harder for the next 12. But you've been a dream, my love. You can record that. I'm definitely using what you just said at the end as a snippet, because these guys are an absolute inspiration. You know, some of the stories that you've told us, some of the projects that you've been working on are absolutely second to none. So thank you from me and Jess to everybody who took part today, and thank you for everybody for watching this webinar. Definitely been an eye-opener. I think I'm going to lose Jess to you, Ewan, and she's going to go and blow things up. So don't forget that Steve. Bye. Don't forget that Steve mentioned that the opportunities will be open next week. So give DNV a quick follow on Gradcracker, and then you'll be alerted via email and push notification when they do open up their positions. We will also put this recording live this afternoon. So if you want to go back and listen to anybody's journeys, then you're more than welcome to do so. And we'll also put the key snippets that will be live on the hub tomorrow as well. So there's lots for you to do, lots for you to get involved in. Next week, Jess and Soph are going to be joined by Kailash Rail. So tune in then, same time, same place. But for now, thank you everybody for taking part today. It's been amazing, and we hope to see you all again soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
see you later,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.